Good morning, everybody. It's your boy Gsluke here with our weekend review stream for the Masters. We're officially almost on to RBC Heritage Week, which I decided I'm going to attend in person. So we're going to have some content from in person there over in Hilton Head. But first, we have some things to address for the Masters. So going to take a look at some of the results, your lineups, review a few of them down here this morning. Sip on some coffee, try and wake up a little bit. It's 9 a.m. over here on the East Coast, way early for me, but I know a lot of you early owls, you've been up for 4 or 5 hours. So we'll suck it up, we'll sip on our coffee, but what's going on down in chat? We got 8 games saying there's a 100% like ratio. How about we keep that up, right? We've got 6 people here early on the stream. Let's get up to 6 likes. That'd be pretty sweet. What's going on, Nick? Good morning. We got Travis who says, bring on the roast, which... we got our roasted coffee here, of course, but also the roast of the lineups, which Travis, me and you are going to have some fun with this one. So let's just hop into it. So going to bring up Draftkings. Let's do that to start. You can see I'm already doing some research on Harbor Town, which I've never been to in person. So I'm really looking forward to getting to see it. Nothing's really changed with the course. They've added a few tee boxes apparently. But yeah, we'll touch on all of that during the course breakdown. What I want to focus on here is the community contest. And of course, we're going to look at my GPP results. We'll take a look at some of the ownership trends, which for this week, we're going to take a look at some of the comparisons between the GPP contest and then some of the single entries around the industry. Try and take a look at some of the trends between those. But in terms of the community contest, it was won by Pause this week, who I'm actually not sure his username over there on YouTube. So if you're Pause, you want to go ahead and flex on the chat a little bit, feel free to go ahead and let us all know, give us a little bit of grief about that. But he played John Rahm, Morikawa, Young. You can see he got a 6 of 6 through, which there's only 60-something entries in this contest, so I don't think you had to have a 6 of 6 to win, but it was certainly going to be helpful. You had Gooch, Pereira, Thigala, who had that great day there on Sunday. One of the, I would say probably the best shot of the entire golf tournament, that chip in on hole 16, that was unbelievable. Morikawa maybe wasn't my favorite play, same thing with Cam Young, but top 10 finishes with both of them. So certainly got the job done there. And more importantly, right, you had Pereira and Gooch, 2 live guys, get through the cut for you. So down low, it was a relatively weak week. I mean, there was, not a ton of poppers down there in the lower 7K and upper 6K range. The nuts, right, was Phil Mickelson, which I know in our contest was probably 0% owned, but even in GPPs was 1% owned or less. So it was a tough week for GPPs. And personally, if I would have played good old Phil Mickelson this week, I would be $100,000 richer because as you'll see when we get to the lineup review a little bit later on, I had the exact nuts without Phil Mickelson up top. So unfortunate there. We got Glavka down here, who I know always watches these. He finished in second. I feel like every single week he's in the top 5. So maybe we need to start bringing him onto these review streams to give us some of the idea of the strategy that he's using. But one thing I can tell you that I noticed is that he tries and leverage up top. So he's in the community, obviously, has access to the projections. So a lot of times I see him taking the opposite stud, right? So this week I played Rory. That went well, obviously. And then John Rahm. So 1 out of 2, right? We batted 50% right there. But what, Glavka did, which this wasn't the nuts, right? Top 10 finish, whatever, from Scotty Scheffler. But the rest of the lineup, right? Xander Schauffele, pretty damn good there in the 9K range. Justin Rose, I played this week, but I didn't play a ton of, right? Was only like 11% owned. The rest of these guys were in the player pool. You can see a bunch of guys got to Brooks because of how much I steamed them up there this week. But overall, I like the pivots up top. This guy's been killing this contest for the last 5 weeks. So not a surprise to me. Nick finished in 5th. First time you've seen this. So he got Scotty up top. Okay. I like the leverage, right? He was still 21% owned. That kind of surprises me. If anything, I would have thought that he would have been like 15% owned, maybe a little bit lower in this contest. But, you sharps are still on him out there. You had Max Homa, 9,200, like it. Hideki with some decent form. Tom Kim, that's an okay play. He was low owned. Look at that. So you did take, 2 pieces of relative chalk up top, right? About 21, 22% owned. And then you mixed in 3.3%, 6.7% owned Tom Kim. So I like what I'm seeing here. But what we're going to do here and what Travis is waiting for, we're going to have some fun with this, is let's look at 2 of the worst lineups in human history here in this contest. And we're going to start with Travis's because Travis's isn't as bad as mine. Okay. We'll get to mine here in a second. So Travis got a 4 of 6, which doesn't sound that great, right? And percentage wise was not that great this week, right? That was top 40th percentile. I mean, you were worse than average, right? Getting a 4 of 6. So Travis knows that this lineup wasn't his best. WD for Zalatoris, I'm sure that was great, right? You'll see I share that sentiment here in a few minutes. Rory up top, what a loser, just had a horrible week. So I can't fault you here, right? You had Rory just play like an absolute bum this week, and then you had Will Zalatoris withdraw. So, not the best result, Travis, but honestly, in terms of your construction, I don't hate it, right? You had some leverage with Cam Smith. Fleetwood, I thought was a good course fit, right? He finished middle of the pack, like whatever for him. And then Kirk and Poston, I kind of liked Poston. I kind of liked Kirk, but both of them got the job done in this contest, right? 1.7% owned, which I think there was only 2 players, that means, that ended up using them here. And then JT Poston was 3.3%. So in terms of, critiquing the lineup, I don't think there's much I can say, right? You got a little bit unlucky with that withdrawal, with Rory playing like a bum. But you guys can see down here, I finished in last place and had a 1 of 6. Yes, on the easiest week to get a 6 of 6 in history, I had a 1 of 6. And yes, there were 2 withdrawals, right? There was Rory and JT in the same lineup, but we also had Tom Hoge. This is the worst lineup I have ever put together in my entire life. This was worse, believe it or not, than every single lineup I entered in the 150 max this week. And just to show you, right, 190 points we scored in this lineup. In my 150 max, my lowest scoring lineup out of 150, right, was 197, was a 4 out of 6. So I happened to pick the worst possible lineup and throw it into this contest this week. That takes skill. This was built by hand. So what this tells me is maybe I should just let the optimizer go out there and build my single entries for me now on. Clearly, I do not have the best eye for picking these players. So we go over here. We look at my 150 max pool. I actually had a lineup finish in 33rd. This lineup was in the top 10 for a long time yesterday. Especially when Jordan Spieth was in second place alone, when he was just, not even T2, when he was just in second. This lineup, I believe it was like 8th place at a certain point. It was winning like $7,500. You had Neiman really not play all that well there on Sunday. And then Taylor Gooch, right? I had a guy at +4, and I was in the top 10 of the GPP with a live chance to win. So, that's what I said. If I pick Phil Mickelson, I almost guarantee myself a shot at the $1 million, or in this case, it was 100K to first place. Because like even my next lineup down, 157, right? If it's just Phil Mickelson for Straka, again, that's asking a lot, right? No one played Phil, right? There's a reason why I wasn't on him. I thought he had no chance to go out there and do what he did this week. We're looking at a GPP win. So it's a little bit unfortunate. Definitely the value plays are what got you this week. But unless you somehow played Phil the Thrill, then you likely didn't win the GPP. That was just, I don't know the reasoning for going out there and playing him. I watched Live Golf more than most people. He was horrible on the Live Golf circuit as recently as Orlando. He played well in round 1 over there in Orlando, but on Saturday, Sunday, forgot how they do that over there, right? Only 3 days. He just absolutely got roasted. So just hats off to Phil. Good for you, man. But you couldn't have sucked to go out there and make these lineups just a little bit more competitive. And just to give you an idea, this lineup finished in 33rd. Of the guys that finished in front of me, I believe 25 of the 32 all had Phil Mickelson. So that was literally the difference. Outside of that, we had the nuts, right? Patrick Reed, T4. Fagala, as a first-timer, absolutely broke that mold, right? Finished there in 9th place. Neiman was, believe it or not, the best play in the top end of the 7K range. Spieth, we know that he nearly won this golf tournament. Jon Rahm won it. You didn't even have to have Brooks to get up there. You can see my lineup at 157 did, right? I had Brooks at $7,600. Let's see. I guess a lot of it came down to just salary. You didn't want to go down into that 6K range, right? Unless you took Phil Mickelson, just because the best finishers, right, were Thagala, and then obviously Koepka, right, who finished in T for second. And then outside of that, right, what was there? I guess Neiman, $7,800. There wasn't a lot of 7K guys that played well, right? Like even Rose was T16. Yeah, I mean, we'll scroll through these. I know these are just the guys that I'm playing, right? So I guess we can go to the lineups that we're finishing in first and look at these. There was not a lot of guys in the 7K range you could even take, right? Like There's the Phil lineup, right? Finished in second place. Yeah. It was just slim pickings down low. It was tough, right? So you pretty much had, I guess, Henley. So, Henley, by the way, surprised the crap out of me out there around the Masters. I did not expect that to happen. I guess you could have taken him too, in that sort of lineup. But yeah, slim pickings down low. Not like most weeks where like there's a bunch of guys you could have taken. Sam Bennett, he finished in T for 16, but he was 0.3% owned. Yeah, so if you had a bunch of Sam Bennett, hats off to you there too. But yeah, T23 here. So these lineups are far from perfect. I mean, even the lineup that won first place, you can see is far from perfect. It has Sam Burns in it at $8,300. But because the lower end range was so weak this week, because this balanced build, and by the way, this is interesting. All the other lineups have Rom, right? It's just like every single one, Rom. The one that actually won the contest was a balanced build because it didn't have to take that 6K option. Interesting, right? It was that kind of week. I feel like that happens more than people give it credit for, and that's when this balanced build really shines. So Special D, ANGC had at least 16 lineups in. Not sure if he won 50 maxed or not, but either way, hats off to you. That is impressive. Let's catch up on chat, see a few of your lineups before we hop into some of the ownership trends. Where are we at down there? Decent Rory. Yeah, so let's take a look at your lineup. You're saying about Travis's lineup? Yeah, mine though had Rory. It was not a decent lineup. You know that guy in fifth? Yeah, a lot better than last week. You're you beat me by 55 spots this week. That was not good. Yeah, let's take a look at yours, Clay. A few lineups I actually want to look at over here on Discord. Let's share my screen. Bring up Clay's real quick. Alrighty, so we got Clay here. He finished in first for $20. This might be the winner takes all contest that I post in the Discord. This might end up being elsewhere. I'm not sure, Clay, but either way, I like the build, right? JT had that collapse on Saturday morning. That was unexpected. Sunjay M, right, made the cut. T16 was definitely suitable, right? I wouldn't say that he popped for you, that he was one of your better players, but definitely didn't hurt your lineup there at a T16. Koepka, Thigala, Woodland. I love the Woodland play. That's sharp. Woodland loves himself a difficult course. Historically, maybe not the best around Augusta National, but based on the price and especially based on the ownership, I thought was worth getting to as well. So I had him in some of my top end lineups, played a bunch of them in Showdown there for Sunday. So that ended up working out nicely. I like what I'm looking at here. I think you've got enough leverage. In last week, we talked about you being a little bit too pivot heavy. I think you did it perfectly this time around, right? You took 3 pieces of quote unquote chalk, right? Like JT was 15% owned in most contests, Sunjay was 20%, and Brooks was 15 to 20%. So it's not like you were taking somebody that was 25, 30% owned across the board. You took 3 of those, and then you took 3 guys that were low owned. That's the perfect formula to go out there and have some success. So I like what I'm looking at there, man. And if this was like single entry sort of build, I like it even more because those pivots, right? Thigala, Woodland, you could see they were sub 5% for Thigala, right? Woodland was 9%, and in most contests was even lower owned than that. So I like what I'm looking at there. When I bring up Stosh's lineup, we're also going to look at another T Swin lineup here in a second. Did I? No, yeah, we haven't gotten to it yet. Here it is. So Stosh, member of the community, ended up finishing at first in a single entry with this lineup. So it was solid. It wasn't perfect, right? So it scored 532. That would have been top 20, top 30 on the GPP. So like I said, you don't have to be perfect to take home some of these contests, but this one would have been pretty close to doing so. It was a damn good lineup. You had Rom up top, Spieth, you had Jay Rose, right? That was the quote unquote weak link here up top. And then Taylor Gooch, much like my best lineup this week, had Taylor Gooch in there. I guess the impressive part is that he still would have finished. Let's actually just give you an exact answer. Where would he have finished? He would have finished in 10th place in the $5 GPP, and he had Taylor Gooch in the lineup. Like that shows you how weak it was down low. Just giving him some feedback for the lineup, though. I like what I'm looking at, right? It has the leverage you need with Taylor Gooch. And I don't know, he was 10% owned in this single entry kind of build, but that's enough of a pivot for me, right? Especially when it's a single entry, you're not playing against 200,000 other entries. Reed, I liked the 2 live plays down there. Justin Rose was probably the best play there. I know it wasn't his best performing play, but just based on ownership, leverage, and whatnot, I like what I'm looking at there too. So congrats to you, Stosh, there. That is a heck of a build. And let's take a look towards the bottom. So we're not going to look at the underdog stuff. Yeah, T-Swens had another lineup. T-Swens had this 6 of 6, and this didn't cash this week. So obviously looking at great lineups is nice and whatnot. But we're going to take a look at this too. I have no problems with this. Just full disclosure, T-Swen. But the only 2 players that I actually took this week were Fleetwood and then Harold Varner III. So I did take Live Boy HV3. Fleetwood typically plays hard course as well, so I definitely agreed. I have to say, I didn't hate the other guys though, right? So just because I wasn't on them doesn't mean I absolutely hated them. Scotty obviously makes sense. Cam was a great pivot play. Tom Kim, I was worried about the experience with him. I just had to find a reason not to play him, but he's still a world-class player. He could have gotten it done. And then Chris Kirk, I thought was maybe a little bit overrated because of the form, but he was an informed golfer. Like it's fine if you play somebody like that, right? Like even if the course fit or the experience isn't there, there's always a reason to play somebody like a Chris Kirk. So I didn't love the players that you took, but I can't argue against them. Like I understood the argument for playing all 6 of them. So no shade thrown at you there, T-Swens, but yeah, the 6 of 6 that doesn't cash is a rare one in DFS, but one that I'm all too familiar with. So when you play 150 lineups like I do, you're going to get a bunch of those every single week, which is fun to poke a little bit of fun at there week to week. Let's share DraftKings, get back to the community contest, and review a few of your lineups. So then afterwards, we're going to go through some of the ownership notes. Where are we at? Yeah, round 3 showdown. Nick went off. Nick ended up not taking home a contest, but had like 2 top 5 finishes in multiple GPPs. So hats off you, Nick. That was sweet. Loser Man Rory. Glass Man, is that maybe that's Will's Outdoors? Or maybe it's Tiger Woods, not sure. But you're saying that loser Rory, yeah. Your worst entry in our community contest, yeah, literally. Out of 151 entries, it's in the community contest. Like I couldn't have done that if I tried, right? What's going on, Tachi? Long time no see. What a great Masters week. Your bank account. Thank you, Luke. When is the Gsluke open? We have to get these G-Gens together. Yeah, Dave, I know you had a really good week with Showdown, right there for round 3 Showdown. I know you went out there, also ended up cashing out. And I know for week long, probably cashed out too. So if you have any lineups you want me to take a look at, Dave, I got you. But in terms of the Gsluke Open, we'll have to figure that out, right? Get down in South Florida, something like that. Figure out a golf course and perhaps have a little bit of a get-together and tournament. I'm all for it. Anyone that beats me can go out there and maybe we'll give you a little bit of a prize, right? We'll figure it out. Got your money back for Classic, but Showdowns were terrible. Yeah, opposite for me. Over here for GPPs, I would say it's like above average. I ended up having, what was it, 1.5x week, something like that, which again, whether I'm losing 50% or I'm making 50% on a given week, I really don't care, right? I'm playing this contest to finish in first place, right? To win this 100K, to win this 50K down there. Yeah, for Showdowns, that's where I had my spikes this week. That's where I had a bunch of top 5 finishes and stuff, especially because I play mostly single entry for Showdown as opposed to 150 max for GPPs. So when I bank for Showdown, it's a little bit more of a bankroll booster than it is for GPPs, just because it is so hard to spike in those GPP contests. So a little bit of the opposite for me. Sorry to hear that, Brian. The winning lineup in the big $12 single entry had Rahm, Brooks, Henley, Reed, Fitz, and Phil. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. When you have a somewhat difficult course, those placement points matter just way more than they do elsewhere. And I think the last time we had a super chalky lineup win the GPP was when Matty Fitz won at the US Open, and it was impossibly difficult there on Sunday. Almost all of the top 6 were guys that were already starting in the top 10 and that shot like even or 1 under par. So I don't like those Sunday showdown slates when it's got that much chalk in the optimal. It's hard to get there. All the slapdicks are going to have that lineup, right? But anybody that's looking for ownership leverage is probably not going to find it. All right, so Let's take a look at a few other lineups here. Stosh, the winner for that big single entry. Similar kind of lineup. So he didn't take Rom in this one. So I guess that's why he didn't have that. Let's see. Any notable names? Let's look at Rob's lineup. Ooh. Where's Rob at? Is he at the bottom with me? Oh, did he not enter this week, Rob? Oh, there he is. Okay. Rob, oh, he had Zalatoris. That sucks. And then a 5 of 6. Nothing you could say. Good lineup. Right? A lot of people here like Taylor Gooch, it seemed. That's interesting. Obviously, I think in terms of price tag, everyone recognized how cheap Taylor Gooch was, but 22%. Jeez, oh, geez. And I was part of that 22%. Rage of Reason, 5 of 6. Pretty solid lineup. Had his 2 Australian boys, Minwoo Lee, Jason Day out there. And boy, Jason Day shot 80 on Sunday. What the heck was that? That was ridiculous. You got Louis Birch here, 5 of 6 with Hoagie. Oh, he loves his boy Hoagie there too, so that's not surprising. Ben down here, 6 of 6. Okay, that got you into the cash too. Love to see it. Yeah, pretty solid performances. Just don't be like me. Don't be like CJ Barry here. He had a 4 of 6. Oof. Like, don't even want to show these lineups. Yeah, just don't be anybody down here towards the bottom of the build here. Mojo King, 3 of 6. Schnitzel, T Swins. You had the withdrawal, right? You're absolved, right? You get a pass because you had, Will Zalatoris in your lineup. But if you actually had 3 guys miss the cut or 4 guys miss the cut, don't want to do that next week, right? Don't be like me in this type of contest. Try and get in some of these better builds next time around. All right, let's take a look at some of these ownership trends. If you guys want your lineups reviewed, still feel free to go ahead and throw them down in chat. We'll get around to them here in just a little bit. But what I want to focus on here, especially this week, right? I talked about it last time around. I was going to bring up the ownership in the GPP versus the single entries. A few notable differences this week. And this is something that I think people know about, right? They talk about it all the time, especially when it comes to content. They're like, oh, that guy is probably going to be a lot chalkier in single entries. But I'll go ahead and show you guys who those players were this week and why. So if you're maybe not as familiar with that phenomenon, we can get you familiarized going into the future. So let's see if there's any questions in chat. Will these eat out for the year? Aw. I hate to hear that, man. He's such a young, promising player. That sucks. Damn. Yeah, I didn't see that. That really sucks. I feel bad for the kid. Like, I'm legitimately sad about that. That's messed up. Damn. Well, hopefully he gets back soon. I knew that he withdrew and I knew it was serious. I didn't know it was that serious. Goddamn. Alrighty. Moving on from Willie Z, who is obviously unfortunate. Did that just come out? That must have just came out. That's really sad, actually. Let's go through these ownership differences. So the tab over here is the $5 GPP. This tab's the $200 single entry. This is the ownership difference between my projections and then the $5 GPP. So like most weeks, right, mine projections are made for GPP contests. So we're going to do the difference, obviously, between that and the GPP. And then this tab here, over here in Q, is the one that I really want to focus on for this time around. This is the difference between the $5 and the $200 single entry. So let's go ahead and start there and look at some of the differences. The main big difference up top was Tony Finau was a lot more chalky in the $200 single entry than he was in GPPs. And that's because of the course history bump, right? You take a look at his course history. The guy had 3 top 10s his last 5 years. I thought, all the ownership projections thought he was going to be super mega chalk this week because of that course history. What that tells me is that the more experienced, right, players that are willing to put more money behind their picks are doing their research, right? They're seeing Tony Finau, that course history, and they're slotting them into their lineups. That was predictable, right? If you're somebody who's been tracking ownership differences between these contests, you probably could have guessed that going into the week. Taking a look at a few other ones, John Rahm, lower owned in the $200 single entry. Now, this one I actually thought might go the other way. A lot of people took Rory McIlroy. A lot of people still took Scotty Scheffler, but John Rahm went down in ownership. If anything, I would have guessed that Rahm, maybe the sharper players, would have gone to him as a pivot even more. So that's a surprising one in the other direction. Cam Smith being lower owned, that makes sense. The other end of the spectrum, right? is that not only are you dealing with sharper players, you have guys that are playing safer, right? Because rather than a $5 entry fee, it's 40 times higher. It's $200. So inherently, no matter how large your bankroll is, right? The larger entries that you're playing, the more that you're going to maybe be conservative, right? Maybe not go forward as much, taking that guy who's injured, right? Just in case he pops. You'll do that in a GPP contest, but you maybe not, might not be as willing to go out there and do so in a single entry. You can leverage that though, right? Like we know this. This has been happening for a long time. So somebody like a Cam Smith, I'd say is arguably a better play for single entry contest because it's going to be even lower owned. So just to show you a few other guys, Patrick Cantlay was a little bit lower owned in these contests. You can see he was 10.7% there. You can see the ownership projections on Cantlay this week were really off. I think the course history had a huge impact on that. And you can see that more that you were paying for an entry, the less and less likely you were to play a Patrick Cantlay. Max Homa, another lower owned player in single entries. We always say that the chalk in single entries gets even chalkier. And that's essentially what you're looking at here, right? The guys that are, like Rory McIlroy, right, got even chalkier, right? Guys like Jordan Spieth, even though it was ever so slightly, got more chalkier. Justin Thomas, right, went from 16.4% to 18.2%. Tony Finau, right, we already touched on that one, but Cameron Young got a little bit chalkier. Jason Day, right, got up to about 21%. Sungjae Im, right, another piece of chalk, went up about 5% in that sort of contest. So that's something you should keep in mind, right? The chalk is going to be chalkier, and these pivots are going to be even more of pivots compared to most contests. In terms of our ownership projections, I would say it was hit or miss. Most of them up top were decent. Definitely under projected, I suppose, with Scottie Scheffler, right? 4.7%. I think most people did, though, right? A lot of people had Scottie Scheffler at like 18 to 20%. They had him a solid 6% lower than Rory McIlroy, and they came in essentially the same ownership, right? You can see in the $5 GPP, they were literally the same ownership level. And that's what I expected, right? 22.4 and 22%. You can see in the $200 single entry, the ownership did start to spread out a little bit, but again, these ownership projections are meant for GPP. So, and by the way, just to give you the reasoning behind that, is a lot of people out there don't realize that there's a reaction to the ownership projections, right? Like we'll put out ownership projections on a Tuesday, right? I do it. Everyone else puts out their stuff on Tuesday, typically. Wednesday, you get updates, so on and so forth. And then right around like 5 p.m. on Wednesday, everyone stops doing ownership projections. I don't know why. I'm still usually going out there pumping out some ownership projections late because there's a reaction to ownership. People around the industry, if they see somebody getting a little bit of steam like Rory was last week, a lot of times they'll just hop on off, right? They'll go, I'm not eating that chalk, right? Which makes sense. That's a smart thing to do in most situations, except when it's an overreaction, right? Like Rory, 28% in single entries. Like I think that's what a lot of people were expecting, right? And even 26% over here in the actual GPPs was still a ton of ownership, right? But people saw Scottie, he was projected like 17, 18% for most projections out there. I can see I was a little bit more bullish, like I said. But yeah, people were like, oh, that's a great play. I got to get there too, right? So then he ended up 26, 27%. There's ownership is a fickle thing. The more and more that you play DFS, the more that you'll notice these things. But I guess the important part about this week is that, yeah, this chalk, all of these guys that were getting ownership, even more chalky in the $200. Just to show you, let's look at Corey Connors, right? He was 7% higher owned in the $200 single entry. Brooks Koepka was 7% higher owned in the $200 single entry. Fleetwood, Rose, right? More popular plays. Literally, all of the guys that are high owned. I mean, look over here, right? High owned, higher owned. High owned, higher owned. High owned, higher owned. You could just predict it, right? Every single time you see somebody that's higher owned than the rest down here, right? Look at Taylor Gooch, right? 7.6%, the highest owned in this range other than Hoagie. Hoagie's higher owned, and then Gooch is a solid 3% higher there. Look at this. Danny Willett, 8.1%, another 5. This is 5%. He's nearly 1.5 times higher owned. That's significant, right? Knob is getting some attention, even higher owned in these single entries. Interesting. Gordon Sargent even, right? 3.4% in the $5, 6% over there in the $200 single entry. So that is just something I wanted to show you guys. This happens every single week. This isn't just, exclusive to this $200 single entry. This will happen in the $12. It'll happen in the big $33. Pretty much anytime you only give somebody one lineup to work with, well, they're going to want to play their quote unquote best plays, right? Which in large field contests have so much variance to them that in those sort of builds, the game theory approach is to be even more of a pivot heavy player. So just wanted to point that out. Just broke, sent the article in Discord. Damn, yeah, let me bring that up. That makes that's actually really, really screwed up. I don't normally get upset for players, but I definitely am about that a little bit. He's not even one of my favorite players. He's just that good. That's horrible to see that. Damn. Man, the guy that won the Millie this week already shipped one this year, and it's his 4th total. Yo, somebody's got the Marty McFly time machine out here. Tell him to hook us up with the winners for this week. It'd be nice to win a Millie. I don't think there is one for the RBC Heritage, but it'd be nice to win 100K out there on the golf course this week. That's for damn sure. But damn, 4 Millie makers. That's the dream. That guy's clearly got some money in the bank. That's for damn sure. To be even playing all of those Millie makers, let alone going out there and winning them. Alrighty, boys, that's all we've got for this stream. Going to go ahead and cut it off now. We're just over a half an hour, which is about the perfect time frame for these. We'll be doing the same thing after the RBC Heritage, but yeah, going to be there in person. Should be a lot of fun. Course breakdown going to be dropping as soon as the next half an hour to an hour. So as soon as we hop on out of here, going to record that, get our core plays up, value plays, then hop up there for the practice round on Wednesday. Because again, I've never seen Harbour Town in person. So I want to get a look at the course conditions, maybe tweak the modeling a little bit heading into this week, and hopefully see Jordan Spieth win at the RBC Heritage again. That'd be pretty sweet. You guys already know I'm Ben Jordan Spieth this week. The guy, top 5 machine. And how about that yesterday, right? You had Patrick Reed getting into contention, Phil Mickelson up there. You had Jordan Spieth spiking. You had Victor Hovland get to 8 under par at one point. That was a heck of a Sunday round. But the guy I have my eye on is definitely Jordan. Won here last year. And I think people, for whatever reason, they're still sleeping on his form. I've been beating the drum on this guy for 2 months now that every week he's finishing top 5, top 10. Every once in a while, every 3 weeks, right? He'll mix in a top 25 finish. How is Jordan Spieth not 25% out every single week? I know he's going to be maybe he's going to probably be in the 10K range this week, right? Because he's a defending champion. But I have a feeling he's not going to be remotely close to the highest out. When you have the big 3 there, you have such a stacked field with this elevated field. Yeah. Give me an outright on Jordan Spieth and give me him at pretty much whatever price. But until then, guys, best of luck. Looking forward to it. And I'll catch you guys for next week's stream.